let me get into this comment here from K Naturals NYC. I already typed a written response, but I want to do a video reply because this is something that we need to discuss. So K Natural says, my mother-in-law convinced her son to come to the hospital late when I was in labor. Her and her son suffer from main character syndrome. Men have to be aware of those type of mothers, but more than likely it's the narcissistic mother-son dynamic. That's what this sounds like. But men have to be very careful about their mothers trying to influence how they show up for their partners. Because if a woman is going into labor and a mother is telling her son, because my response was like, oh, she probably said, you're going to be in labor for hours, so take your time, don't rush. The baby will be here when he's here, whatever. She said bar for bar. That is what her mother-in-law told her partner. So she's convincing her son to not be there for his partner who's having his baby in the hospital. Like the woman's supposed to just go through that experience alone. She didn't make the baby by herself. You just wish that some mothers would mind their fucking business and let their sons be men, show up and be the dad that maybe they didn't have. That's the start of a co-parenting situation, or just a genuine connection and unit, a family unit. You are breaking away from your mother and you're cleaving to your wife, your partner, the person that you chose to tango and join bodies to create another human body. But you got mothers like that are just like, oh, you don't have to rush. She can be there by herself. That is some evil, demonic advice. It's wicked. It's planting a seed of she can do this by herself. If that woman becomes a single mother, she could do that by herself. I did it. That's what that's giving. And oh, I was by myself, so she could be by herself. Hater. Pure hater. You don't want someone to show up for another woman because maybe they didn't show up for you. That's what men need to really take a step back and separate themselves now from their moms that are straight up haters, and they know it. My ex-husband was aware that his mother was nasty and a hater. There was times that he had admitted, like, I think my mother's jealous, or he knew. So why not distance yourself from that toxic person? When it comes down to you and your family unit that you have created to move forward and create your own rules and legacy per se, you're an adult now. You make those changes. The Bible says a man leaves his mother and father and cleaves to his wife. He who findeth a wife finds a good thing. But these toxic mothers, they think that they're their son's wife, that they should always be there for them, and what their needs are going to trump their partners. Even when it comes down to the birth of a child. It's cruel. My ex-mother-in-law, like, she didn't even visit me in the hospital when I had, first of all, she wasn't present for our first child's birth. She was out of the country. And then when I had our twin daughters, she had our son with her because he couldn't be at the hospital when I was getting, put through the emergency C-section. So my ex had to leave the hospital, take him, drop him off at his mother's place. And then he came back. By the time he came back, I was waking up from the surgery. He didn't stay long. He left I saw him for about 5 minutes and then he left. So nobody stayed overnight with me at all. While there was another woman whose partner was sitting there in a chair, like sleeping in a chair. But mine, no, he had to go back to work. But men get time off too. They get maternity, paternity, whatever it's called for men off their job. He didn't do that when we had twins in NICU. No, he didn't. And his mother didn't come visit me. His brother, his sister, like his family did not come visit me in the hospital. No one brought my son to come see me. His mom, that had a lot of shit going on and was staying in the hospital for extra amount of days from that emergency C-section. They didn't give a fuck. And then when I was discharged from the hospital, they didn't pick me up. My cousin, who lived in Jersey, had to drive to Manhattan to pick me up. But then there was a situation with the car seats. Like, he needed car seats because one of the babies was going to be released with me. The other one still had to stay in NICU. So he drove all the way to try to get car seats when my ex was supposed to leave a key for him. He did not leave a key. It was a hot mess. But my mother-in-law claimed that she was going to bring me food when I was discharged. She called me up like, what time do you think you're going to be there? What do you want to eat? I'm going to bring it to you. Don't worry about it. Acting like she was so concerned and she was going to, be there for me. I told her what time I was being discharged, what time I was going to be home. It was probably going to be like 10 a.m. This woman does not show up with food and our son until 5 p.m. I had medication that I need to take for the pain from the C-section. I needed it with food. There was no food in our apartment because we were moving, right? My husband didn't leave any food there. There was shit all over the place because it wasn't already packed up because my husband didn't pack up our apartment. Me and my son were trying to pack our apartment before I went into fucking labor. Like, we were prepping for weeks, but my husband was just like, oh, it'll get done. It'll get done. Or my mom is going to help. The bitch threw our shit in garbage bags. And then it was a shit show by the time we moving day, you guys, I was stitched, freshly stitched. And my cousin, when he had picked me up after I was discharged, he looked in my fridge and he was like, where's the grocery store? I'm going to go get you some groceries. And I was like, oh no, my mother-in-law says she's going to bring me some of this and that, blah, blah, blah. His spirit told him, go, nope, I'm going to go. I'm not leaving you with no food. I'm going to make sure you got something. So I direct him, tell him where the store is. He goes quickly. He gets like a sandwich, some chicken and salad and stuff. He brings a couple of things and brings it back to me. So I was able to eat and take that medicine. I believe it was Vicodin that I had to take. And then when my mother-in-law finally showed up at 5 o'clock, she looks in the fridge and she was like, oh, you already have food. Like, she was irritated. And then, like I said, once we got into our house and the realtor showed up, and again, I was left with nothing. They were all vexed.